Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Richard. Excuse the state of the shed at the moment. It is a bit of a mess. I still haven't really kind of finished tidying up from when I've built the substructure for the rest of the track, but I have been pinning some of the track down, just making it a bit more secure. I've also added some track to the swinging section for in front of the door, but I'll show you that in a moment. Just want to say thank you to Dave Ormsby, who got in touch with me after watching the last week's video. He had some comments about the hinges on the fold-up section over there. He wasn't sure why I'd put them on top rather than underneath. The reason that I've put them on top is basically because it is the only way that it'll work. Putting the hinges on top of the board means that when the lift-up section is lifted, the track moves apart and away from each other and prevents any catching or snagging. If I'd put the hinges underneath, then the fold-up section wouldn't actually be able to fold up. It would have to fold downwards. So basically I've had to put them on top. Although saying that, he has given me some food for thought. He didn't like the aesthetic look of them. He said that they looked a bit ugly, which is fair enough. You know, that's fine. I'm not sure about how I'm going to cover them, to be honest. If you've got any ideas, I would love to hear them. Please just drop me a comment down below, send me a message through Facebook. The address will be down there. If you're enjoying the videos that I'm posting on YouTube, then please like and subscribe to my channel. We now have a Facebook page as well, facebook.com/followmyprogress. I will be posting a new video every Friday. This includes progress of the layout, tutorials, hints and tips, and lots more. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to keep updated. So when I was laying the track for the fold-up section, the first part that I did was this corner here. I used some cork and some cardboard just to basically make sure that the track was nice and level. I then used a combination of some pins and a staple gun to hold the track into place. As you can see, it's now actually quite sturdy, so it's not actually going to move anywhere. This was important because on this end of the track where the track meets the board, I needed to make sure that this piece of track did not move, so that I could line up these two pieces of track here. I wanted to make sure that this end was nice and flush before pinning it down. I also tested it several times by lifting and lowering the drawbridge section in front of the door. I wanted to make sure that the track didn't rub or catch against each other when I was lifting the section up. I then aligned the track on the corner section here. Again, I pinned it in place using mostly staples and pins. The pins that I used were basic ones from a sewing kit. I do have some track pins in a tub somewhere, which I will locate for when I put down the track more permanently. I'm still deciding whether to use pins or whether to use glue for the actual final laying of the track at the moment. But in the meantime, I wanted something that I could remove and change if needed, which is why I didn't go for anything more permanent than the staples and pins. For the other end of the lift-up section, I lined it up as before. I then used my rotary tool, and this time I did use a diamond cutting disc, thanks to Andy Russell for his suggestion for that one. I tried to make the track as level and squared as possible and smooth so there was no sharp edges. Where there was a few sharp edges, I used some small files to file away some of the excess track. I wanted to make sure that the track lined up as accurately as possible. Obviously, even a few millimetres out could potentially cause derailments. In order to check that this worked, I used a couple of wagons, just ran them across the tracks back and forth several times. I'm hoping that once I manage to get some cork down across this whole section here, the track will be very, very accurate, nice and level, and there will be no issues with this going forward. What I will have to do is do some more testing on this section before I commit to it fully. Ideally what I want is to get the track powered so that I can actually run some locomotives across the track, especially ones pulling wagons, so that I can see if there's any chance of any derailments anywhere. So now I've got the next section of this track laid. My next plan is to get it powered. Now I've got an idea for that, which I'm going to show you on a little test bench that I've prepared. So before I attacked the actual track that I will be using, I decided to mock up a small prototype test on a piece of wood. I took two pieces of track and aligned them so that they were almost touching. The idea was that I was going to transfer power from one of them to the other using these small clips. The connector set I bought includes a male and a female connector, both of which can be soldered on and then connected together like so. Once connected, it will allow power to be transferred from one side to the other. They are well designed in the fact that when you connect the clips together, the black feed connects to the black and the red feed connects to the red one. My thoughts were to solder one of the clips onto each piece of track and then connect them together. The idea will then be that the power is transferred from one track to the other via the connectors and not the track itself. At the time I was putting this project together, I wasn't sure whether the wires would sustain the current required to transfer power from one track to the other or not. However, I did some research afterwards and discovered that the wires are rated for 2.4 amps. Although this video shows what appears to be a nice easy piece of soldering, my soldering skills are really poor. It took me various attempts to actually solder the wires to the track. Despite my soldering inadequacies, I managed to get both clips attached to a piece of track. I even managed to wire them the right way around, so the red wire matches with the red wire and the black matches with the black. I then planned to attach the track to the board and have the wires poking through. I was going to drill a hole at each side of the track, but then I realised that as I'd already soldered them, I needed to drill a bigger hole so that I could poke the clips all the way through. After I'd finished drilling the holes, I then laid down the track on a piece of wood, feeding the clips through the holes I'd drilled. It wasn't the easiest of jobs because the hole was only marginally larger than the clip. I then took my time to lay the track. I wanted to make sure that it was nice and level and also aligned. As I was using some old offcuts of track, the ends of the tracks weren't cut perfectly. I realised that in order to make this as accurate as possible, I needed to file the ends down so that I could get a nice close fit. The file set I was using is a 6-piece Magnusson set, which I purchased from my local B&Q store here in the UK. If you're interested in purchasing a set like this, I will post a link to the item in the description below. As the piece of wood I was using was a scrap piece of wood, I also had to file around the drill holes slightly, just to make sure that the track could be laid nice and level. So I'm just going to literally chop the excess off with craft knife, just so it doesn't cause the track to rise up any more than it needs to. In hindsight, I would have probably used a piece of MDF or plywood or something a lot smoother for this test. However, it was just to see if this theory would work, so I wasn't too bothered. More flat. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pin it down. Once the track was laid on the board, I then used my staple gun to secure the track to the board. This is not how I would permanently fix a piece of track to a board, but for this test purpose, it was ideal. Once the track was all finally attached to the board, a quick test with a wagon, just to make sure it was aligned, before I started my tests. As you can see, the tracks, I've just pinned them down to the board. As you can see, they're not actually touching. There's a little bit of a gap there, obviously a gap there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to power this track, and then using these little connectors See if we can get the power to run from that track to that track. I've just got a Hornby power connector here, and I'm using some rail joiners to connect it onto this first piece of track. So this and this piece of track should now be powered, which means if I run a loco from here, it'll run onto here, but as soon as it gets to this point, it'll stop. So I'm just going to use it with this little loco here. So it's now on the powered piece of track. So yeah, going to try it on my Class 58 as well. So as I predicted, as soon as it gets to this break in the track here, it cuts it down because this track is dead. What I'm going to do now is connect these wires up. So now this piece of track is connected to this piece of track via the cables underneath. Let's see what happens now. I'd say that's a success. And back again. And just to prove it, there is a clear gap between the tracks. So what is connecting this piece of track and this piece of track, powered area, to this piece of track are these clips. I've done some research into the wires and the clips that I'm planning on using to connect to the power on the lift up section by the door. It works out that the wires are actually geared for 2.4 amps of resistance. Now, I'm not an electronics expert, however there's probably going to be people that comment or send me notes or whatever. However, I do believe that 2.4 amps is certainly going to be more than enough power to actually power the piece of track that I'll be using. The plan is that I'm going to be having one clip on one end of the track and one clip on the other. I am considering using the drawbridge section to power the rest of the layout. Now the idea behind that is that when the drawbridge is actually raised, the connections at the end will both be severed, thus preventing any trains that are on the track from actually continuing and falling off the track. If anybody has any ideas on effective ways you can do that, by all means please leave me a message. I was thinking of using some sort of magnetics or steel clips that when they connect, when the bridge is down, it transfers power. There may be a safety issue involved there, I don't know. There may also be the idea where you can have sort of banana clips that insert into connections on the underneath. I don't know, these are all ideas that I am having at the moment. I've not had the chance to look into them in any more detail really. But as I say, if anyone has got any better ideas, by all means, my ears are open, I am up for suggestions. Please drop me a comment. Please send me a message on Facebook, and as I say, if I get engaged with you, I'm quite happy to give you a mention on the future video as well. So all I can say is progress is continuing in my From Shed to Layout series. I am getting further and further on with my model railway. It's the furthest I've ever been, if I'm honest with you. Certainly beats a loop of track on a board. Thank you very much for watching the video. As I say, do like and subscribe if you are interested in following up the rest of the videos in the series. It's going to be a long series because I'm just going to keep going until I've got a full layout and it's going to look awesome. So yeah, so if you are interested in joining me on that journey, as I say, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the little bell as well. That will give you the notification every time I post a video. Although you already know by now, it's every Friday. I am also on Facebook as well, facebook.com/follow my progress. I have been posting extra little clips and pictures and stuff like that on the Facebook as well, and I'm also on Twitter as well, which I'll double check the Twitter handle and post that next video. Coming up next week, I am hoping to get some more track down and get a running session going again. I want to get a full loop going, which will be hopefully very exciting. Certainly will be for me, whether it is for you guys watching, you never know. But in the meantime, thank you for watching and see you again next week. Cheers, bye.